Hi, I'm Bob Kraus. I'm president of the Veterans National Recovery Center, and we're here today with Sylvia. We're here to talk about a serious episode that happened to her, and it happened at the United States Air Force Academy, which is, as many of you know, is supposed to be the best and the brightest of the Air Force. But bad things happened there, and we want to cover them and let you know what we think is wrong. And so, Sylvia, we'll go to you, Sylvian, and we'll talk about how you came to the United States Air Force Academy, where you were, and then what happened that particular night.
I got put at the Air Force Academy because I kept putting in requests. I had to get approval from a bunch of different commanders saying that I would be a good fit into the Air Force Academy. So they don't just kind of station anybody over there. You actually have to get like a multiple level approval to actually get stationed there. So once I was at the Air Force Academy, they stationed me at the medical group where the cadets are.
Okay, so you were, by the time you got there, you were an E4, you were a senior airman, and you'd had a exemplary record before that, no problems whatsoever. You'd been in for 4 years, and then and you were settled in for at least a few months before this episode happened. Where was the episode? We understand that it was a rape, and we understand that there was a lead up to it, and then there was a discovery, and then there was a rape kit and the other things. Can you walk us through that? What actually happened?
It happened so like from the beginning, from the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the bar with my friends. I had one drink. I went to the bathroom, had a shot with a friend, and came back. Um, but I don't really remember anything after the drink. Everything else was kind of fuzzy. And then I woke up the next day and I didn't really remember anything. Um, my friends were there, and so was the person who assaulted me. But I didn't really know at the time what happened because I was still super confused. I had a really bad headache. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel normal, so I asked everyone to leave. Um, and then when I was talking to my friends, we kind of put two and two together and found out that I was assaulted, and I didn't know.
And you, when you had some tests, some blood tests, they determined you had trazodone in your blood, which had been prescribed, but you had not used trazodone for a long time. Is that correct? How long is long?
Um, probably like 2 months prior.
2 months, so it should not have been in your blood. But it can also be used as a date rape drug. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
And that's because it knocks people out. Is it?
It makes the effects of the alcohol a lot more prominent. Like you're
Okay.
not supposed to drink on it at all.
Okay. So if somebody put something in your drink, and it knocked you out. Okay. Now okay. So you woke up the next morning, and you and your two friends put two and two together that something very wrong had happened. Um, can you describe the circumstances as your friends described them to you that night, before and during when you were blacked out?
My friends said that I was acting kind of weird, that I acted a lot more drunk than they thought I was going to be, because we've gone out tons of times before and haven't had any problems. When the guy drove us home, he brought me to my room and closed the door, and we were there for the rest of the night. And they heard a lot of sounds, but they didn't think that I was unconscious.
Hmm. Okay, so the next morning you put two and two together. Did you immediately go down to the hospital to report it?
No, I was kind of torn, but I talked to one of my friends who's been through um, a similar situation, and she brought me over to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "No, you really need to report this. Like, it's not right." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right," because I was still like kind of shocked that it actually happened. And we went to the hospital and did the rape kit.
Okay. Now, describe your emotions at the hospital.
I was kind of shocked. It was really confusing because I was still trying to figure out what actually happened to me. I had bruises and um, like a lot of pain in my neck and stuff, and so they like marked all of the bruises around my neck that they said was kind of similar to strangulation. Um, and then I had bruises on my legs as well, and we found a photo on my phone of the incident.
Wow. Yeah, that's big news. I was not aware of that. So you reported it. The rape kit came back, and during this time, because of what happened, when did you start your counseling?
Immediately.
Immediately, and that's when you were prescribed the drugs, the various drugs. Because it looked to me, as I did some research, that uh, and you say that you were on these drugs for the rest of your time in the Air Force. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And there's a number of drugs on this list. There's 5 drugs actually that are relevant. One is Ambien. One is Clonopin, sometimes called lorazepam. There's Prozac, sometimes called fluoxetine, and there's Wellbutrin, which is bupropion. Uh, and those are the 5 drugs that you were given, and they were all these were medically prescribed drugs to combat the shock, the trauma, the depression, that kind of thing. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we went through these and I added them up, and we found, as you described your symptoms during this 2 year window or so, a little over 2 years, that you were still in and you were taking these drugs. We identified 103 side effects. Can you just give me a sample of what kind of side effects that you had? We will obviously not go through 103 of them, but some of them must stick out in your mind.
The heart problems. I had a lot of heart problems after I started taking them. I would lose consciousness multiple times. Um, Ended up hospitalized for a week because of a muscle breakdown and low heart rate, uh, and my kidneys started shutting down. Um, I'd get blackouts where I'd lose track of time, 30 minutes at a time, where I had no idea what had gone on. My memory was, I couldn't remember what happened 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago at all. People would ask me to do stuff, and I would just stand there and not do anything.
Hmm. Now, during this time, and these are very serious things: epileptic seizures, heart problems, serious migraines, a lot of things that are on the list that I can't even go into right now. But did anyone check you for side effects? You were
No,
prescribed these drugs by a major, uh, whose name I will not reveal, and you had no ongoing checking for side effects at all. Okay, even though you had 103 side effects, as we can guess. And the drug interactions on these, some of them are really serious. If you mix Prozac with Wellbutrin, it increases the toxicity or the side effects of the Wellbutrin. Trazodone has a number of serious effects, including the heart problems you were describing. And so you have quite a number. There were 8 all told. 3 of them serious, 3 of them requiring monitoring, uh, 2 that were relatively minor but still very serious when it comes to your own personal health. So you kept on these because they were required because you were in the service. Is that correct? You had because it's a doctor's order, it's a military order. You had to follow these. Now, when did you get off of these drugs?
I stopped them the day that I left the military.
Okay, you stopped on the day you left the military. Did some of the side effects go away?
Some of them did, but a few lingered.
And those are the ones that are causing you problems either today. Uh, sometimes with side effects, if you continue taking a drug, even though you have noted the side effect, sometimes that can cause permanent damage that continues the side effect, and that may be from anything from migraines to epileptic seizures to heart problems. And so it appears just on the surface, not as a medical opinion, but it appears on the surface that you may have sustained damage. Some of these side effects that they make you dizzy, they give you vertigo, they damage your ability to make good judgments. You wound up in some trouble with your command at the Air Force Academy. What happened? Describe some of that.
Initially, when I first got on the drugs, I wasn't having a really easy time. I kept oversleeping. I got paperwork for being late to work twice, 2 days consecutively, because I overslept my alarm. And that was right after I crashed my car within a week of the assault. So they put me on new medication with the trauma of my assault. I drove my car into another car because I just couldn't pay attention.
Which is another side effect. Everything you've mentioned so far is a side effect of these drugs.
Yeah. And so when I wasn't sleeping on top of that because the assault happened in my house and I couldn't leave the apartment, they prescribed me sleeping medications, which had me oversleep right after I crashed my car. And so on top of that, I got even more paperwork for being late to work, not showing up to work on time because I got into the accident.
Some of your supervisors said some very harsh things to you about that time. Can you relate some of that?
My first sergeant told me that the military would be better off if I wasn't there. That she wouldn't trust me to deliver a piece of paper down the hall to the printer.
And she was aware that you had been raped, and it was fairly recent, and she was treating you this way.
I was very vocal about it.
Okay. Were there others at the academy?
Yeah, my supervisor at the time was downplaying my emotions and my reactions. Okay. Saying that it wasn't normal that I was responding the way I was.
Yeah. So basically, it was for a rape victim at the Colorado at the Air Force Academy. It was an unfriendly environment. Is that correct? Generally, overall, it was a very unfriendly environment. And then you transferred to a nearby air base in order to be at the location that the court-martial was to be. Is that correct?
No, I was stationed at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois.
Oh, Scott. Okay, they moved you to Scott.
When the court-martial happened, they flew me back in Colorado.
To Peter. Okay, so you transferred within a month or two to Scott. Is that correct? From the rape?
The assault happened on October 3rd. I was transferred at the end of January.
Okay, so it was about a four-month window. Okay, so you went to Scott Air Force Base, and did the same pattern of behavior on your part and your supervisors continue?
It was not as bad. I feel like my supervisor cared a little, but she didn't really care enough, if that makes sense. Like, she made sure that I was breathing, but didn't really care if I was breathing air, if that makes sense. Every time I would have have to go somewhere, she'd be like, yeah, sure, like, go ahead, but like never asked me if I was okay, never asked me if I needed anything. Everyone knew my situation. I was very vocal about it because I was having problems before. So I wanted to, like, as soon as I got there, I wanted to lay down, like, hey, this happened to me, like, I'm not okay, I'm seeing a therapist, like, all this stuff, and still, like, nobody really checked on me ever.
Okay, so was anyone picking on you or doing things that would kind of drive you into a corner?
What do you mean?
Just harassment of any kind.
At the Air Force Academy or at Scott?
Or at Scott? At Scott.
At Scott, I had the first sergeant that I had told me that my behavior at my last days would not be tolerated at this base, which I mean I didn't plan on getting assaulted again, and they would hold me accountable for my actions.
Okay. There's another woman that we deal with that was at Scott Air Force Base around this time, and she'd indicated that she thought you were being picked on by the command, and she protested it, and she got a lot of bad pushback from it that may have contributed to her being forced out on a different situation. So it was out there. But so you're at Scott, you're surviving, but you're not surviving. And then you fly back to Peterson. How long was it was it after the event that the court-martial occurred?
I think it took almost 2 years.
2 years, okay. And the court-martial, you say, from your perspective, came out badly. What happened?
He was acquitted
He was
of all charges.
Of all charges. Now, were the bruises on your neck, were they entered into the evidence?
Yes, it was entered into evidence that I had slight bruising.
Slight bruising, but they did say where it was? Did they say it was on your neck?
Yeah, the medical examiner who helped me with the rape kit, they have a whole diagram and everything.
Okay, so there was that clear evidence, but what was the grounds that the judge used to dismiss it?
They couldn't prove that I said no.
And of course you were knocked out at that point, and you had bruises on your neck, and you reported it pretty much immediately, and the court-martial still turned against you, in spite of what most people would consider to be significant evidence. Is that correct?
Yeah, my leadership from the Air Force Academy spoke out against me and said that I lied.
No. Oh, really? So that they basically followed you, and what did she say you lied about?
They said that I lied about stuff at work to cover myself because I put a piece of paper, or I entered in a piece of paper to get an off-base job, and I started 2 days later, but the paperwork didn't go through until 3 days later. And I told them I would wait, but it was just training, but I still got in trouble for it. So they said that I lied about that. So since I had a history of lying.
Yeah. And of course, one of the things that comes with these drug toxicities that we're talking about is that it diminishes your ability to make judgments too. So you were in a diminished capacity, basically from the day of your of the rape, and you're going on medication until you left the United States Air Force. Is that correct? You were in a diminished capacity. Yeah. And yet you were, and yet shortly after the court-martial was concluded, unsuccessfully from your point, then you were released from the Air Force. Is that correct? Yeah. So basically what happened, in a nutshell, is you were raped. The United States Air Force misadministered your treatments and the treatment of you, and ultimately through the chain of events it led to your dismissal from the Air Force. And that's really all we have right now, except we have, of course, the unjust paper that said you were not fully honorable discharge, but something slightly less. But and that is the crux. But if I were sitting at the United States Air Force Academy today, and if I was a commander of that post, I would look very hard at this case, and I would say that we need to reconsider the case of Sylvian, and that's all. Now, I'm Bob Krause. I'm president of the Veterans National Recovery Center. We will be pursuing this. We will send copies of this tape to the appropriate officials, and we wish our viewers a great day. Please contact your congressman on this. Send a copy of this video to them. Sylvian needs justice. Thank you very much.